Hi everyone, it's Trish from Dish Kitty Studio, and it is time for week 8 of Dish Does Ross. Here is the card for this week. It's the Six of Hearts, and it says, anything that you try and you don't succeed, if you learn from it, it's not a failure. So, I thought I would do something a little bit different this week. So, instead of doing a new project this week, I thought I would kind of take you on a tour of some of the art projects I've tried and failed at. And then I'll tell you kind of what I learned from those projects as well. So I'm just going to show you this stuff in kind of random order. This is a canvas. I did this last year it was at like one of those brewery nights where you go, you pay a fee, you get a beer, and you get all the supplies, and you get to try a project. So believe it or not, take a look at this baby. This was an acrylic pour painting. This was the first time I'd ever done it, the only time, because I have not done it since. But as you can see, it's like, there's like a ton of gray. I didn't use any gray. And I can tell you exactly what went wrong here. If you're not familiar with acrylic pouring, excuse me, basically you take acrylic paint, you add some stuff to it to make it like a little bit thinner so it flows a little bit more. And you can also add silicone, which kind of will give you some of this, like these little cells here, and create some texture. And then you put it all in a plastic cup all together, and you just kind of dump it out. Like you put your canvas on top, turn it upside down, and then pull the cup off, and it makes these gorgeous paintings. Like some of the stuff you can find and that people do with acrylic pouring is gorgeous. This is not one of those. What happened here is that once you get your paint on the canvas, you can kind of move the canvas around. If you can continue to add paint. So like if you want more paint in a certain area, you can add paint, you can add more silicone. Well, of course, I was never happy. I overworked this thing to death. All my colors ended up blending together. It was supposed to be these really bright, beautiful colors that were more like what this yellow is, and it ended up being just this kind of ugly gray mud with sort of pools. Like you can see like right here in this area, like it's got some potential. Like that's not terrible, but it's only in one little area, and like this just did not turn out. So I definitely learned the valuable lesson that it's certainly possible to completely overwork something, and part of being an artist is learning when to stop and when to call something done, and I did not succeed at that in this case. So another thing I want to show you that is something I made that did not turn out like I hoped. This is a ceramic tissue box holder that I did at a pottery studio. I was so excited because I thought like, oh, it's gonna look like her hair, right? So like when it's sitting down and the tissue's coming out, like the tissue would be the continuation of her hair. I did this in 2017, as you can see on the back. The problem with this is that her eyes are enormous, and I actually keep this on my living room end table, and it has tissue in it. But every time I sit down and look at it, I'm like, I forgot to give her eyebrows. Every time, that's the first thing I see, is that she has no eyebrows. Otherwise, I don't think this is a terrible piece. If you have ever painted pottery like this, it's really weird because as you're painting it, the colors look nothing like how they're going to end up looking. So you have to sort of use your imagination to figure out what the final piece is going to look like. And I mean, you can use like, you have swatches, so you're like, okay, when this is fired and glazed, it will look like this. But in the meantime, it's all very neutral and weird looking. And her eyes are just like, she's got the creepiest, beadiest eyes. I really should not leave this sitting in my living room because she's kind of creepy. Like, it's not terrible. I mean, I think overall I did a decent job. You can see I tried to add some shading and such, and like, it's not a total train wreck, but she definitely has creepy eyes and she needs some eyebrows. So I think the valuable lesson I learned here was slow, especially with this type of work where it doesn't look like it's going to look when it's glazed and fired. Like, slow down, take your time, and make sure your finished piece has all the elements that you want, like eyebrows, and not creepy, scary eyes. Okay, so another thing I have that I want to show you. This is pretty recent, actually. I want to say it's late 2018, so maybe only probably 3 or 4 months ago, I'd guess. I was trying to follow this watercolor tutorial where you kind of make this really colorful background and then you paint a tree over the top. This is a horror show. This did not turn out at all like I hoped. This paper is watercolor paper, but it's like a handmade paper. And I didn't realize that like, I'm not experienced even enough with watercolors and watercolor paper to realize that this paper was really messing up the works. So I decided to try it on regular watercolor paper after, like, I was like, why is this like I was watching a video tutorial and I'm like, the video is looking great. Like, why is mine not working like that? But then I used actual watercolor paper and I mean, you can see like night and day, big difference here, right? Like, so I learned here that, supplies matter, and using the right tool for the right job is very important. So as you can see, this one turned out pretty good. I don't think it's a masterpiece or anything, but I am certainly much more proud of it than I am this weird shapeless lump of mess. So, I mean, the right paper for the job you're trying to do matters a lot. I use the exact same paints even. You can tell they're the same colors, but look at the dramatic difference. So that's another one that I learned some valuable lessons from. Okay, so now let's get into like a sewing project. Let me back this out a little bit. So my husband had these old t-shirts that he was going to get rid of. And so for Christmas one year, I took them and I made them into throw pillows. And they actually turned out really great. Like this one, I even took the little Superman tag and sewed it into the side here, so it's got the tag. The problem with these is that I just stuffed them. I have two. Let me show you the other one. Here's the other one. It was a Transformers t-shirt. The problem is, instead of using a pillow form for the inside, I just stuffed them with like stuffing, like you would stuff a stuffed animal with. And they, like this, I made these years ago, probably 10 years ago, I would guess. Maybe 9 years. You can see like they're just like a kind of a lumpy mess. They're so shapeless and they're too soft. So I learned a very valuable lesson from these, that when you're trying to sew throw pillows, just use a pillow form. It's much easier. The pillows will be much better. My husband does still use these, but I intend to eventually, cut them open and go ahead and stick pillow forms in them, because they are really, they're really cool. He loves them. He loves the look of them. They're just not really comfortable and useful as pillows. So, that's it for now. I'm going to be back in a little bit because I have something else that I want to show you. I think I'm going to go through some of my old sketchbooks so that you can see, I think it's important to see the progression of wanting to draw and practicing and trying and making progress. So I'm going to get those out and I'll be back. Okay, so I busted out, I went through I have this trunk where I keep all of my old sketchbooks and such. I dug way deep down into the bottom, and I think this is the oldest one that I have. This was when I really thought like, okay, I'm gonna draw. I want to learn to draw and I want to start, making art. So this was around 2010 was when I started it. It's kind of crazy to look back at, because if you guys have followed my channel for any length of time, you know that I keep my daily journal, and I draw pictures every day about kind of what happened in my day. And here, this is April of 2010. This is kind of the beginning of that. So it's wild to look at like this whole huge page, because I think this is 9 by 12. Yeah, this is a 9 by 12 book. And then I was drawing, like, I didn't know how to use up, you know, the space. And so I was drawing these tiny little pictures and leaving all this white space. But this is what I was doing. I mean, I was kind of doing this without as much writing, but this is where I started. So, I mean, you can see, like, oh my gosh, it's crazy to me. Let me zoom in a little bit more. I think the drawings are only on this side. So, I mean, I would not try to say, like, oh, I'm this great artist now today, but I think we can all agree from looking at these little quick sketches that I've certainly come a long way. It's kind of wild to look back at these. This was before I think I ended up just like using this book as a sketchbook. But this is definitely how I got started with the whole concept of, you know, keeping a daily journal and drawing my days. It's just crazy to me. I think this, something like looking back at these old journals or, you know, sketchbooks really epitomizes this whole card, because now I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, these drawings were terrible. At the time I did them, I was very proud of them. I thought they were really good, and I can see now looking back that, I mean, some of them are all right, some of them are not great, but I certainly can see that I definitely learned from this whole experience. Like, the more I keep drawing and the more I keep practicing, the better I'm getting. I mean, that's for sure. I did look through this book before I turned the camera on. This caught my eye because this is a little drawing I did of a squirrel. So I just did that squirrel drawing in my Valentine video. I think it was week 6. I'll put a link to it down below, or actually I'll just insert a picture of the squirrel I drew a couple of weeks ago now so you can see the difference. So here's that one. So you can see the difference. So obviously drawing and practicing does make a difference. Again, I don't think that's the squirrel I drew recently is like the greatest squirrel in history, but it's certainly far and away better than the one here. Again, it's crazy because I had no idea how to use the space. I just was figuring everything out. And I think here I had new supplies, you know, I was getting different stuff, and I think I did this one in chalk and that one's oil pastel because I wanted to like see the difference. So I mean, I was truly trying to figure things out. Again, I'm just going through each day and drawing, you know, little things that happened or things I saw. Oh, here's this lion. I remember being really happy about that lion. Animal sketches. Here I was trying to be Bob Ross. This one I remember because I had gone to a thrift store or something, and I got a big like animal book, and it was full of full color photos of animals. And so this was like my first time trying to draw something from reference. Like, all of this stuff had really just been from my imagination. I was just drawing whatever I could think of. This was my first time drawing from a photograph, and I was so proud of it. I thought this was a masterpiece, and I'm actually thinking it's pretty good. I don't think it's too bad, especially, I mean, I can see, like, it feels so chalky. I was definitely using, like, some kids' watercolors because that's what I had and stuff like that, but, I mean, it's pretty good. Here's some think it's oil pastel again. I really had no idea what I was doing with the oil pastel, but I was trying. This one's chalk, watercolor. And these, you can see, I left these by themselves because this was like the finished piece, you know, like I spent a ton of time on it. It's just, it's crazy. Oh, watercolor pencils. So I guess I was experimenting with those. I must have just gotten some. And this turned out cute. That's oil pastel. So I'm going to kind of just go through this quickly. As I get further into the book, time starts to, oh, I was drawing a fire. Not great, but it was fun. Time moves forward. Like here we're into 2011 already. So I had already, sometime in 2011, I switched to another book and I was actually keeping my daily journal separate. Like this was kind of like where it was born, and I was thinking about it and I was trying to figure out, you know, what to do and how to do it and what I wanted to do. But I used the rest of this book just to kind of experiment, really. I tried out, you know, different supplies that I was coming across. Here's some swatches of different markers I had. So, oh, here's some acrylic paint. It says shine because it's very shiny. I don't know if you guys can see that glare. Again, I was trying out different materials and trying to, see, now we're into 2012 already. That feels like acrylic paint. Spirograph. That's a sticker. I did not draw that. And see, we're into 2014 here, so I think I just had pages left and I was trying to use them up. I have one other book here that I'd like to kind of go through a little bit. This one also started around 2010, but I finished it in April of 2014. So August 2010 to April 2014. I'm going to back out because this one does have drawings on both sides, I believe. So this one was a little bit more experimental. This was just more like a sketchbook, but I mean, like, look at this bunny. His head's tiny and his body's huge. I don't know what's going on there. There's some cute little owls I did, though. Hope you guys can see, because these pencils, some of these pencil drawings are pretty light. See, these are from 2013, so I must have just like done these somewhere else and then I just like taped them in here. I did not draw this. A friend of mine drew that and I kept it in here because it was, I thought it was so good, and this was my inspiration. I aspired to be that good. More swatching, and I always love to draw trees. Leaves. Again, you can see I had no idea what to do with all this space. Like, I didn't understand how to compose a page. But now, in 2019, after I've kept my daily journal in all different size books all these years, I've gotten a little better at it. This little bunny's not too bad. That's from 2011. I bet money that was from reference. I don't think any artist really does extremely well drawing from imagination, but when you have reference, it's just so much easier. Here's just a little sketch I drew of me. Apparently my hair was long back in 2011. More swatching. Girl doodle. I'm going to try to get through this kind of quick because this book is, it's got a lot of pages. Animals, more. See, lots of swatching. A little terrible drawing of my husband. Oh, some of these are not good. It's like kids' drawings here. But I think I was more, at this point, using this book to try different materials and sort of see how they reacted. Oh, Dragacorn. I was trying to come up with a dragon unicorn hybrid. That never went anywhere. This says practice for holiday cards. I don't know if you guys can see that pencil work there, but it's actually inked, but I drew this to make our holiday cards that year. This was my practice. I did draw our holiday cards. Looking back, I don't think they're very good, but at the time I was really proud of them. It's funny because then I sometimes wonder, like, this I drew from, I had This is when I had started getting like some drawing books, and I was starting to like copy things. So you can see my drawing was getting much better because I was starting to use reference. Like I figured out that that was kind of the key, was using reference to draw things instead of trying to just like imagine. Anyway, what was I saying? I forget. I don't remember. Anyway, I'm rambling, but oh, that's not nice. I hope you guys can see these drawings. Some of them are pretty light. Anyway, let me try to move through this a little bit quicker. Here I'm trying to sketch like cartoony people and figure out see, a lot of times I can tell just from what I've drawn here that I was sketching stuff that I wanted to draw in my daily journal, but I was kind of like using this book to practice those things first and like figure out how to draw them and what they were going to look like, and you know, get the composition together before I did the finished drawing in my daily journal. And I do not do that anymore. It's very rare that I test something out. Usually now I'm comfortable enough in my daily journal that I don't really worry too much about having drawings in there be perfect. So I'll just go in and have at it. And if it doesn't turn out the way I planned, oh well. I have another chance tomorrow. Oh, this was me playing around. I put crayon in a glue gun and was trying to see what would happen. So it did melt the wax, but it was just kind of a mess. Drawing more cartoony people, and I can tell from looking at these that I was copying them from a drawing book I have. This one too, that's that same princess that we looked at earlier, but look how much better she is. This was 2013, and that was back in 2011. These, again, I was taking something that I had seen in a drawing book. I don't know if you guys can see these images here. I copied this one from the drawing book, and then I adapted it, you know, to make it a drawing of me at the time. So I was kind of figuring out, you know, how to use reference and make it work for me. That's really cute. Oh, I love it. That t-shirt. I have that t-shirt still. Anyway, so I thought that this would be kind of the best way to, I know I didn't make any new art. Oh, and here I was practicing how to use pencils and the different types of pencils, like 4B, you know, 10B, 2H, all that kind of stuff. These are the ebony pencils, Prismacolor Ebonies, 6B. So I was just practicing like how to use them to get different values and things like that. Anyway, I thought this would be the best way to kind of get through this prompt, because it is about learning from failures. Not that all of this is a failure. I think it's all just part of the progress. But it's kind of nice to go back and look and see how much better I've gotten and how much better I could still get if I continue to practice, which I fully intend to do. So I think that's it for this week. I just wanted to kind of show off some of my hot messes, I guess. I do have my deck of Bob Ross cards here. I'm going to go ahead and shuffle them, and I'm going to draw a card for week 9. Remember, if you would like to participate, all you have to do is make some kind of artwork, any kind of artwork, based on the prompt I'm about to draw, and then post it on social media with the hashtag 52 Happy Little Weeks, and I would love to share your artwork in my next video. So, I think I am going to take this one. And it says, use absolutely no pressure, just like an angel's wing. And that is the 10 of spades. So that is the prompt for week 9. Again, if you want to join me, all you have to do is make some artwork based on that card. And share it on social media with the hashtag 52 Happy Little Weeks. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you want to see more. And thanks so much for watching. Have a great week. I will see you again soon.